After the recent attack on the Pakistan Stock Exchange, the BLA is being seen as increasingly anti-Chinese militia. To understand why this is the case, I have with me prominent TV anchor and political commentator Dr. Moeed Bizada. Moeed, thank you so much for joining me.
Najma, thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about such an interesting subject.
With what's behind the Pakistan Stock Exchange attack?
Yeah, it's very important to understand there is a definitive Chinese angle and Chinese dimension to BLA's attack 2 days ago on Pakistan Stock Exchange in Karachi. At the time the attack took place, we have reason to believe that the Chinese delegation of investors was actually present inside the premises. But more importantly, Pakistan Stock Exchange in Karachi has significant investments. It has seen in recent years significant strategic investments, always almost to the tune of almost $85 million to $100 million from Shanghai Stock Exchange and also from Shenzhen Stock Exchange. And these are some of the first Chinese investments of such nature in a regional bourse and stock exchange, and it's it's almost a trial investment for them. And this is not all. We know, and now by now the whole world perhaps knows this thing, that BLA, Balochistan Liberation Organization, has not only taken responsibility, has accepted responsibility for this attack, which they have sent to an international agency, perhaps AFP, Agence France, but also they took responsibility for the November 2018 attack on the Chinese consulate, again in the city of Karachi. And in August 2018, they took responsibility for attacking a bus of Chinese engineers in Dilbandin in Balochistan. And they have also, if you look at the literature on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and the statements they issue, they make it very clear that they are against Chinese presence in Balochistan and Pakistan. There have been statements to the effect that China should get out. Xi Jinping, you need to get out from Balochistan and Pakistan. So there is a definite and a deliberate attempt by the BLA or by the handlers and sponsors and whosoever gives direction to them to present themselves as an anti-Chinese political and militant organization.
We always knew of the BLA as an ethnic movement fighting for Balochi rights, apparently. When did this movement towards becoming anti-Chinese occur, and why did that happen?
We have to, Najma, comment a little bit about the history of the Baloch resistance and Baloch movements and sort of militancy. The Baloch militancy in one or the other form has always been present since the accession of the states in March 1948. But 1970s is a very important part when large segments and elements from Balochistan student organization BSO were organized and declared themselves as a Balochistan independence movement. Now, there is evidence in the literature that the then Soviet agents of the KGB, by the code name of Sasha and Misha, took a role in stitching the BSO elements together in the form of a Baloch, independence movement. The name BLA was little heard in 1970s and 80s. However, there has been a lot of Baloch militancy in the 73-75 time period before the Baloch surrendered to the Pakistan army. And again, after 1979 till 1988, when there was an Afghan jihad and a war, CIA, ISI, Pakistan, America, and Saudi Arabia were actually waging resistance against the Soviet control and occupation of Afghanistan. And at that time, the Baloch militants were very active. Then from the literature, we understand that when the Soviets withdrew and the financial support, strategic guidance and advice that was coming from Afghanistan and from the Soviet agencies and also from the Indian agencies, because then the Indian agency RAW was actually collaborating with the then Soviet agency called KHAD, KHAD, and KGB were involved. And Pakistan was clearly a Western ally with United States, UK, France, Germany, Saudi Arabia. All were basically using the Pakistani strategic space to wage a war against the Soviets. So India being the Soviet ally, so Indians, Soviets, and Afghan intelligence were together using the Baloch militants against Pakistan. But formally, the BLA name has become more of a currency or sort of a formal currency after the year 2000 and was increasingly heard after 9/11. But at that time, they were not anti-Chinese. So this anti-Chinese thing, if you will ask me, I'll explain you more as how the evolution took place.
So initially we heard a lot once again about them attacking Sui gas facilities and other such things. And it was basically Pakistani interests they would hurt. This movement towards attacking the Chinese, did that come in the light of CPEC or had it started already?
Yeah, before I answer this specific question, Chinese and CPEC, let us basically see that after 9/11, there was a significant investment by regional intelligence agencies like Afghan intelligence agencies, and of course, with the help of the Indian intelligence agencies like Research and Analysis Wing and IB, in terms of overall destabilizing Pakistan. You know, there was an attempt to shape a narrative that Pakistan is imploding from within. The country is unstable. The country will collapse from within. And this would be a huge disaster for South Asia and for the world, because this is a nuclear, this is a country which has nuclear weapons, which has tactical devices, and various kind of jihadi organizations, whether it be Taliban or other organizations, or they will actually get hold of these weapons. So a specter had to be presented to the Western media and the audiences that from FATA, erstwhile FATA, to Balochistan, to the streets of Karachi and all across GT Road, this is a country that is imploding, which is out of control. Its government, its military cannot really control it. There have been attacks on the military garrisons, on cantonment areas and Pakistan Air Force bases and all that. So BLA was an instrument, was a very, very convenient instrument by attacking the gas installation, other energy installation, python of telecommunication, road networks, you know. So everywhere the BLA was written large. But I think the handlers of the BLA, even when the CPEC was not announced, would have imagined the great significance of BLA and other Baloch outfits to be used subsequently against China, because intelligence agencies are always planning for the next 25 or 50 years. And the fact that the way China was rising peacefully, and China had to expand towards Pakistan, which was natural geostrategic Chinese ally. So planning was in the pipeline to stop the Chinese. And then comes the declaration of the CPEC when Xi Jinping takes over as the Chinese president in 2014, and China formally announces this Belt and Road Initiative. And from that moment onwards, BLA changes its cap and hat and becomes an anti-Chinese, a declared anti-Chinese sworn enemy. It's a very, very interesting evolution of BLA that has taken place.
So, I mean, why did it take the Americans, given the fact they were doing these various terrorist attacks on the country, on various energy installations, as you mentioned, on people, as we know, the attack on the Chinese engineers, the attack on the Chinese embassy in 2018, why did it take the United States such a long time, finally last year, July 2019, to declare them a terrorist organization?
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. Pakistani authorities have been presenting evidences of BLA being supported from Kandahar in Afghanistan, the connections between the BLA and the Afghan intelligence, the National Security Directorate of Security and all that. But Americans, for various reasons, were resistant. They admitted that some activity is taking place from the Afghanistan against Pakistan. They are on record making these kind of statements. At times, they have also arrested militants or people from Afghanistan and handed them over to Pakistanis. But they had two reasons. One, they were not really convinced. The Pakistanis were not able to present a very good case. And secondly, they also had their own accusations that from within Quetta, the Afghan Shura of the Afghan Taliban's Shura is actually sitting and operating against the American interests in Afghanistan. So they were less sympathetic. So there has been a gradual improvement of relationship in the last 2 or 3 years with General Bajwa and Imran Khan, this duo, you know, sort of management from Islamabad. The Pakistani military has worked very hard in the years after 2015, 16, 17, 18 in improving its relationship with the American intelligence, with the American administration, with the American military, and making them realize that, look, we have shared interests in Afghanistan. You want stability in Afghanistan, we want stability in Afghanistan. No country in the region is affected more badly by instability in Afghanistan, then Pakistan, and we are partners. It is just that our ways of approaching our that same goals of stability in Afghanistan could be different, but our interests are the same. And Americans and Pakistanis have developed a much better understanding on the issue of Afghanistan, which is now admitted by almost everyone. You recently interviewed Michael Kugelman. I heard he made some statements that, you know, there is a better relationship, a better understanding between Pakistan and Afghanistan and the Americans. And it is in the context of that better relationship that when the Prime Minister, newly elected Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, was to visit Washington for the United States for the first time, perhaps in September 2018, for the United Nations General Assembly session and all that. And in July, a context was set for a better relationship. It was a long-standing Pakistani demand, to which the United States State Department acceded and declared BLA is a specifically designated terrorist organization. That's a very specific term. This is not even the Foreign Terrorist Organization, FTO. This is SDTO.
Can you explain the difference between the two terms for our viewers?
I'm not very clear on that. You know, I think certain organizations, they have a very, United States has a very complex mechanism of designating organization, that which organization is doing what. For instance, I think the specifically designated foreign terrorist organization is an organization that is not working against the United States or its allies' interest as such. But a foreign terrorist organization could also be an organization that has been attacking United States or Western link. But I think there is more to that complex.
So a point on the side, to be honest, but RSS and the recent claims by the Pakistani Prime Minister and many more that the RS should be declared a terrorist organization. As per the US definition, it should be declared a specified terrorist organization, I think. Is that what you're suggesting?
100%. I agree with you that if things were very fair and academic and technical as the law defines them, then RSS should have been declared as a foreign terrorist organization or a specifically designated terrorist organization long time ago.
Right.
But
so,
the problem,
go ahead, sorry.
but there is an obstacle. The problem is this, that RSS is virtually running India. RSS is the political and ideological master of the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, of whose candidate Narendra Modi is now the second-time Prime Minister of India. And we all know that at least 14 Western countries, including United States and United Kingdom, had placed a travel ban on Narendra Modi when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat for what he did in his role, a perceived role, in the 2002 pogroms in Gujarat, in which almost 2,000 people, mostly Muslims, died. Now, when it became clear that he would become the Prime Minister of India, then the ban had to be lifted. It was a reluctant lifting of the ban. It was not a very pleasurable act for United States, UK, and other countries to do. And since RSS is so strongly linked with BJP, it will be a practical difficulty because, you know, when RSS meets and in 2015 and 2016, perhaps 2015, I clearly remember the Prime Minister Narendra Modi virtually presents himself in the RSS meeting to the head of the RSS and explains his position. So it is the RSS that is running India. How could United States?
So I'd like to come to the RSS maybe in another program, but to come back to the BLA, there are many people in Pakistan that actually believe that the reason why the US has not really had taken a strong action on the BLA was because it was acting in its own interests against Chinese interests in the region. Now, the argument you gave earlier about Afghanistan and the meeting of minds on Afghanistan between Pakistan's establishment and the American establishment, doesn't that counter this argument that it was in the Americans' interest to let the BLA continue?
It's a very interesting and a very challenging question because if you look at the Pakistani defense and strategic analysts that appear in Pakistan's Urdu television channels or people who write the columns, they easily club the CIA and the Western agencies and RAW and IB together as formal backers and sponsors of the BLA. This is something which American experts would never like to admit. But the problem is this, that whether it's RAW or it's IB or whosoever is actually has the controls and reins of BLA, because of course, one of the regional intelligence agencies, as you heard the DG Ranger Sindh General Bukhari, immediately afterward, basically making a very professional statement. He said the kind of attack which BLA has done on the Pakistan Stock Exchange was not possible without the clear support of a regional intelligence agency, a very well-organized regional intelligence agency. I mean, it was a very well-organized intelligence-driven attack. So whether it's a RAW or it's the IB or some other intelligence agencies, the narrative which has been given to BLA since 2013 and 14 is very clearly syncs with the overall American and Western and Indian narrative on the Chinese presence and Belt and Road Initiative. Now, what is that narrative? The narrative is this, that China's interests in Asia and Africa are a new colonial mercantile interest, just like the British, French, and Spanish imperial interest in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. When these imperial countries, nation states, Britain, France, and Spain, were extracting resources, exploiting the native populations of Latin America, Central America, Africa, and Asia, and were basically raping them, we're basically exploiting them ruthlessly. So China is being presented internationally. When you look at increasingly at the Indian newspapers.
If I could just interrupt here, it's also interesting because the various Balochistan parties initially complained that the CPEC roads and infrastructure, which was supposed to go through Balochistan, has been curtailed and not enough of it has gone through there. So on the one hand, you have the Baloch parties, the general Baloch party, saying that not enough CPEC and not enough Chinese investment has come into Balochistan. And then you have the BLA on the other side, who is trying to portray China as an imperial power.
Yeah, that's another very interesting complexity. It's a very interesting subject because the mainstream Baloch political parties and even some of the exile political leaders are very worried. You see, the point is, if more and more of the Belt Road Initiative and CPEC initiative passes through Balochistan, develops Balochistan, creates jobs, then the worth of the land increases, there is value addition, there's wealth is created, liquidity is created, then anyone who is part of the Baloch politics and business order within Balochistan will benefit from it. So that means the leaders that have been left in exile outside Balochistan, who are sitting in Switzerland or in United Kingdom, are direct losers in this process in over a period of 10 years. So I believe there is reason to believe that some of them have actively tried in the past couple of years to seek some sort of truce and arrangement, but local Baloch leaders do not welcome them anymore because, you see, it's a matter of spoils. So you see, the point is, whosoever now is part of the spoils in Balochistan will benefit from it. So this is another dimension.
Sorry, the other ironic part, and I want you to get your thoughts on this, was that Gwadar, where the majority of Chinese investment has taken place, was never part of Balochistan for centuries.
Yeah, that's true. For almost 200 years, Gwadar was a strategic port, a port area which was actually under the control of the Sultanate of Oman. And Oman was very reluctant to basically hand over Gwadar to Pakistan. That's also, you see, Pakistan came into existence as a country on 14th and 15th of August 1947. And it took almost 6 long years of protracted negotiation between Karachi, which was then the capital of Pakistan, and the Sultanate of Oman for getting control of Gwadar, for the accession of Gwadar. Oman was not willing at all. I mean, they understood the strategic importance. And Great Britain, you know, I once, an Omani diplomat in Islamabad, I was in a dinner with him, and he told me that Oman was brought under tremendous pressure from United Kingdom and United States at the time, because Pakistan was a UK and American ally, emerging ally. And yes. I mean, Britain, he categorically told me that Britain brought a neck-breaking pressure upon Oman to hand over and sell. It was finally sold in 1958 for $3 million, and the Pakistani government celebrated it. After 179 years of direct rule by the Oman. But of course, behind Britain was also United States, which basically saw Pakistan was a very important potential American ally in that time period, becoming a member of SEATO CENTO against communism. And remember this thing that Pakistan before 1971 dismemberment, which was a strategic move by Indira Gandhi, was a very important country in the region because it had presence next to Middle East and Central Asia, and it had the other foot by former East Pakistan was in Southeast Asia, where it was being linked with Burma and Thailand. So it was a very important country. So United States and UK pressurized Oman to hand over Gwadar, to sell Gwadar to Pakistan in 1958. So it is not part of the former. Even Balochistan itself was never one entity as such historically. You see, there's several states of Haran, Lasbela, Makran, and subsequently Kalat was stitched together. And almost 50% of the population of Balochistan is not ethnic Baloch. Ethnic Baloch, or perhaps only 40% of this province, is a misnomer. A state of the Balochistan is a misnomer to that extent, because its great majority of population is Pashtun in origin, because that areas have been taken by British in the second Anglo-Afghan war that was in 1870s and 1880s. Britain snatched these areas from Afghanistan, and these are Afghan areas and Pashtun-speaking areas. So Balochistan has been a stitched together entity historically.
We thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.